Hey digital creators, this is Dana with Dana Digital Tutorials, helping you master the tech to simplify your creative journey. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a tearaway nameplate using a piece of torn paper and some glitter paper. You're going to have to create some assets or images if you don't already have them. So let's pop over to My Designs and I'll show you how I did it in My Designs. So I have this piece of paper with the gold tear on the sides. I did run this with several models and settings. This was the one I liked the most. You're going to notice that this one is not so great, so you may have to run it a couple of times to get what you're looking for. If it doesn't work with my settings, maybe you can try some others. This is my prompt here, paper with a straight torn edge on the left and right, flat, smooth, white paper, gold background. I have the model SD3. Style is none. We're going to scroll down to the glitter now because we have to create that, and you'll see some of the ones that weren't so great here. And now we're at the glitter. This is the model SD3 as well. I tried the photographic. I do not like this unless I wanted to really try to use this section here, so I would not recommend that setting. This is the enhanced setting with the SD3. You'll see I have highly detailed glitter wallpaper pattern. I would recommend that you add a color in there, maybe a soft gray or a soft pink. It doesn't matter as long as it's not super dark in color. We're going to be changing the color in Photoshop. And the reason why I recommend adding a specific color is you're going to see here in no style. So if I load this one up, it gave me a variegated look, and that is not something that we want for what we're working on. So let's go ahead and pop into Photoshop. But if you want to do this and follow along, go ahead and pause the video, create these two images, download them, and use your upscaler to upscale them by 4x, and then join me back in Photoshop. Hey, I wanted to cut in here and tell you about my VIP list. When you join, you'll get access to exclusive trainings that are not available on my public YouTube channel. You'll get special discounts that I don't offer in my Etsy store. And you'll also be the first to know when I have new products out, and we'll give you an update for all the tech that matters when you're creating in your digital space, so it doesn't slow you down. So join my VIP list, and I hope to see you there. I think I'll have to do some resetting in Photoshop back to the original, and because I already ran this video and my microphone, my new one, keeps muting on me. So let me go find it here. And okay, so here is my glitter paper, and here is my torn paper. So instead of resetting, we'll just create it again. So the first thing you want to do is do Command or Control A to select all, Command or Control C to copy. We're going to open a new document, so Command or Control N. And we're going to change this size. Now, if you have a drop down in your document types, you can select it here. So I already have it built in, but we want it 2790, 2460 with 300 DPI. And then we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And now we're going to paste that paper. And then we're going to go back and get our glitter paper, Command or Control A, Command or Control C. And then we don't have to do the other steps because we already did. We're going to pop over to that new document and we're going to paste it. We're going to go ahead and hide the glitter for now, and we're going to work with our paper. If you do Command or Control T, you're going to get your handles. And while you have your handles up, if you do Command or Control 0, you're going to be able to resize this. And my goal is just to get rid of that top section that I don't like, and then zoom this out or make it smaller until I just hit the bottom area there. So that looks good. We don't need this background layer, so let's go ahead and delete it so it's not in our way. And now we're going to copy a section of this and we're going to paste it. And the reason for that is because the actual image goes all the way out here, and that is not what I want. I only want to have this section here. It will cause problems later if I don't go ahead and just copy and paste. I'm going to take a little more than I need, but I do want at least a little bit of this gold. This gold did turn out good, and this would also make a great tearaway section if you like it as well, but we're going to be putting the glitter in for today. So let's hide that one. And now let's go back to our bottom and let's move this over. Try to stay about the same. And now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to copy a section, just getting a little extra. Copy, paste. And now we can delete this bottom layer. If you want to name these, you can. You can name this white right and white left so that you can keep track of your layers. And this is our glitter. We are going to cut this in half. We need to drag it to the bottom. And now we have our layers set up. Sorry about that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put these next to each other and we're going to work on the seam. But in order to do that, we need to know how wide to make it. And you're going to see I was working on some actions here. Those are all crazy. Let me close those down. And let me come over here to this one. And we're going to use an action that I created here, but you can do this manually. But I just have guides set up so that I know where I want to put everything. Let me zoom in so you can see. This is the outer edge of the template for my 20-ounce mock-up, which is the size we're working on. And I do want to make sure that my white paper is inside of that area and I have room for the gold area that I'm going to be putting in. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and move this one over the same way until I have my gold showing. It is okay if it's barely over there. That will work fine. You just want to make sure it's inside that area so that when you're presenting this to the customer, they can see the entire amount. Once that's done, we can go ahead and hide our guides. I like to use Command or Control and the semicolon, and now they're hidden. So we're going to back out just a little bit, just so we can see what we're doing. We're going to use the marquee tool, and I'm going to delete a section of this, probably to about right there. I do want enough data that I can work on this. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. And I'll just come over here to make sure I have the whole area. I'm using my marquee tool. And now we have a setup and we can work on generating the center piece. But before we do that, we need to make sure we're on the top of these two layers here. We're going to use our marquee tool and select 2000 or less. Photoshop did update so that you can select up to 2000 and have a full quality image. And then we're going to go to Edit, Generative Fill, and hopefully this is going to give us a nice transition between the two. If you don't like the transition you're getting, or it's just a plain piece of white paper like this is here, you're more than welcome to delete the white area. But I'm showing you this way because if you have a piece of paper with texture and you want to maintain that texture, this would be how you would do it. But it works for both ways, the smooth paper and the other. So then we'll just come down here and select this leftover. And hopefully you did not catch that little sound that came out of my mouth. If you did, I apologize. But this should follow suit and do a really nice job. Sometimes it does create kind of a harsh adjustment back and forth, and you may have to generate a couple of times or check one of these options over here and see if it does better. Now that that is done, we can merge all four of these layers. And then the next step is going to be to get one of these gold colors onto our color palette here. So just click and then just kind of select a gold color that's not too dark and not too bright. So maybe somewhere in there. And this is why I like to have the gold as the background, because sometimes I find it hard to find a gold color. This just makes things go smoother. And now we have that. So our next step is going to be to get this white tear area on its own layer and get rid of that other gold. And how you're going to do that is going to depend on how much contrast you have here. I have a very nice contrast, so just using the color selection tool is going to do a good job for me. So if I go to the magic wand and I make sure my tolerance is about 40 because this is not too bright. That's going to work really well for me. If you have a closer color for the background that was generated, this may be more of a struggle, and you may need to use instead the object selection tool, which is under your magic wand. And if you hover over, you can see it's selecting the whole area, but I can just drag and it's going to try to find those edges. But this is why when I create tear paper like this, I like to make sure I have some kind of contrast between the background and the paper itself. It has done a great job picking. And now we are going to get rid of the other parts. So the easiest way to do that is to go over here to Selection, Inverse. There is a shortcut there if you want to use it. And we're just going to delete. And now we just have our torn paper here. And it's time to add the color. If you're just going for a solid color, that's going to be a little bit easier. But I'll show you if you've got a texture that you want to pull through. We're going to hold down our Command or our Control, click on the image here, and then we're going to add a solid color. Now we don't want this gold in this step here, but it is there when we need it in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and just make it black so that we have a nice contrast. You are more than welcome to clean up any area if you don't like it. I would do that before you create the color layer. So I'm going to delete that. And I saw that I had an area here that I didn't care for. So I'm just going to pop the eraser tool right there. And then I'm going to do the solid color again. Solid color. We're going to make it black. And I can see that cleaned up a little bit. Now we are going to go and work on the glitter. And we're going to hide both of these layers. And we're going to show the glitter. Let's go ahead and resize that just like we did the other piece. And I need to actually select it in order to be able to resize it. And Command or Control 0 just so I can see my handles. And I'm going to bring that in about right there. Now, I really don't want this brighter area for what I'm working on. So just to get rid of it and not have an issue later, I'm going to go ahead and delete it by selecting and then just pressing delete or Command or Control X. And now I deselected and I'm just going to move it to the edge. But we need to now select the area that is going to match our torn paper. And the easiest way to do that is make sure you're on this layer, hold down your Command or Control, and just select the white layer, or you can select this, both will work. You want to make sure you're in the Marquee tool, and that's M for short, but it's also right up here. And now let me show you a nice little feature. I'm sorry I keep making that too small. When you're in the M tool, you can actually move your selection that you just made. And I think about that much of glitter is going to be great. So I'm going to do Command J, and it's going to copy that side of the glitter. We're going to do that again. We're going to select the bottom layer. We're going to hold down the Command or Control, select our white layer up here. I am so sorry. Ugh. And in order to move the other way, we want to move about the same. So let's go ahead and hide this layer, this full layer for a minute, just so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to try to go about the same, but if you don't, you will be able to adjust it a little bit with this method. So we're going to re-show it, and we're going to Command J. So if you want to name these, this would be glitter left, and this would be glitter right. And we'll hide that back layer, and we'll be able to see our selection. And I can see I went a little too far on the left. So if I want, I can move it just by selecting it, being on the Move tool, which is V, and moving it over until I have the look that I'm going for. Now at this point, if you would like to merge these two glitter layers, you can. I personally like to keep them separate so that in the future, if I want to create more glitter or less glitter, I can still move them back and forth easy. So we're going to leave them the way they are. But now we need to color them. And if we want to color both at the same time, the easiest way to do that is hold down your Shift key, select both of these. Command or Control G will put them in a group, and we'll just call this glitter. And now we can do the same thing we did before and apply a color layer, but instead of just selecting the area, we're going to apply it to the group. And you could have done that up here as well, by the way. Let's go ahead and turn that one back on so you can see the black. Instead of selecting and just creating that area like this, you could have done where this whole area shows, and I'll show you that. See, it's all white, so we see black. You can hold down your Option or Alt key until you get this little arrow and click, and it will work that way as well. So I'm going to pause on the glitter for a second because I should have mentioned if you have texture paper below, you'll need to play with these settings in here. You may have to create a couple of layers just because the paper is white. It makes it hard to do a color overlay. One of the things that I found that kind of worked is doing maybe a hard light. If we change this over to a purple, for example, you can do a hard light. You'll notice this purple and this purple don't match. So I may need to create a second layer, also apply that to below, and make it to where it's a different color until I get the color that I want. But I'm going to undo those and just leave it where it was before. Now let's go back to our glitter. We're going to go ahead and create a solid color. And now is where we're going to use that gold. And we may use a different one, but we're going to start with that one. And then we're going to change our layer to probably color. It's difficult to see this, so let's go ahead and apply it using that command or that Option or Alt and hovering between the two and getting that to apply to the folder there. And you can see we have a really nice piece of paper. And if you don't like this area up here, you could go back and work on that. That is a benefit of applying it instead of creating a mask, because if I make a change to the layer below, so if I go ahead and do this, and now if I make a change to the layer below by using my brush tool and black, and because maybe I want to make sure this looks more finished, I can just paint this area, and I need to actually be, I am on the right area. Oh, I have opacity as 30. So I want the opacity to be 100, and I want hard brush. I can come in here and I can just paint until it gives me what I want. But I would recommend that you do that before you do the glitter so that when you're making that selection, it is correct. So in order to fix that, I'm just going to stamp a small area of glitter just to get it out there. And I don't want all layers. I just want current, actually just current layer. And I'm just going to stamp, even though you can't see it, I'm pulling glitter from in the middle. So now it looks good. We've got that all set up. So what do we do with this? The first thing you want to do is you want to save this. And I've already done that over here, so we're going to pop over. Do not flatten this, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But here is the other version that I created, and I actually like the new one that we just did better because I think the gold looks nicer in this one. And that's all about the color that you choose when you're creating your color overlay. So now that we have this done, let me go to my Untitled and let me delete this. And I will show you how to do this. Oop, I got to deselect, and now we're going to start over. We'll pop back over here. So in order to get this over to that, we're going to select all of our layers holding the Shift key. And then we're going to right click to the right of all of these words and pictures. And we're going to hit Duplicate Layers. And we're going to put this in my Untitled 3, which is my pattern, and hit OK. Now we're going to pop over here and you can see that we have this all set up. I'm going to group these together just to make it easier to keep track of it. And you can group that over here. So if you go over here, you could go ahead and group these. So you can just duplicate this one layer and it'll already be grouped every time you do it. The file format for saving that template will be a PSD so that you maintain all of your layers. And by maintaining your layers, when you paste this into another pattern, you will be able to change all of the colors. The gold works really well here, but maybe the next one you want the silver glitter, maybe you want less glitter, more glitter, but you already have this set up. I know I don't want a black here, so I'm going to show you how to change that. I'm just going to double click the black. And I'm going to select one of these darker blue areas and see how much better that looks and how fast that is to change just because we created this, this template area that we can drag in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my glitter layer here, and I'm going to add a shadow. There are two different ways to add a shadow. You have a drop shadow, and I'm going to show you a very exaggerated version just so you can see what it looks like. The drop shadow is going to start in one direction and work in another as if a light was shining on this object, at least only on the back side. It's not going to give you the highlights on the front. And then the size will just be how big it is, and you can play with this all the way around. But if you want it to be on both sides equally, you can either change your distance to 0 and increase your size a little bit, and you'll see it's going to work that way. Or you can do this outer glow. If you do the outer glow, typically your default is going to be white here, and it's going to be on screen, but you can change the color and you can change it to multiply. And some people will use both. They will use the drop shadow for one thing and the outer glow for another, but that's the biggest difference between these two. You can change this color, so if you don't want it to cast a black shadow and you want it to feel more realistic, you could have it cast a gold shadow, which is not dark enough. If we multiply that, we'll see what that does. And I can see that's not quite dark enough. So you can just bring the brightness down and have it cast kind of that gold shadow, or you could have it cast a blue shadow. There's not a whole lot of difference on this one, but if you do this on, say, a lighter pattern, you're definitely going to see those differences. Just pick what you like. You can adjust your strength, how much blur is on the edges, how big it is, and all of that by just dragging these things back and forth. You can also, if you've got a distance and you only want it on one side, you can just make this either a 0 on this side or a 180 on this side, and it will show it only on one side. So you do have a lot of options on how you create this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now we're going to work on our text. We're going to click on the group just so that we create our text above the group. And I don't want shadows on that. So I'm going to hit T for text. I'm just going to click in here and I'm going to type your name. And we do need to pick a color for this text. I'm going to do Command A. You can do it right up here in your top bar. If you have your properties panel showing, you can do it over here as well. If you don't see your properties panel, as always, it is in the window. So I think for this color, I'm going to pick a pink. I think that would shine really well. We're going to just commit our layer either by hitting Command Enter or this click button, check button up here. And now we're going to rotate it. So Command T, and if you hold down your Shift key, it'll pop and you'll be able to easily get it straight. And now we're just going to enlarge this and center it and just kind of, I do have my snap on. If you don't have your snap on, you're not going to see those magenta colors. And that'll be under your view menu here under snap, and make sure they're all checked. So I'm going to hit enter, and that is done. Now, the nice thing about doing it this way as well is I could make that blue a pink and make my text blue. I could do all kinds of things here, but let's look at it on a cup. So I'm going to do Command A, Command Control, or Control. When I say Command, no, if you're on a PC, it's Control. And the Shift and the C, which will copy everything that it can see. Then we're going to go over to our 20-ounce tumbler, And we're just going to manually paste it in so I can show you what it looks like. And when you drag from the sides, if you've got your snap on, it will automatically snap. If you drag from the corners, it's not going to do that. You see I have a little white edge here. It's probably not going to show, but just in case, I'll go ahead and expand it. And I see I typed an O instead of an A, but that's okay. You can just get the idea. And now you can see that I have created this, and I do see it's a little off center. So if I wanted to adjust it, I could just move that whole section because I have not flattened it yet. Let me close this one. And if we go back over here, we don't need that one. Let's go back to over here. And I can take this entire group and the name, and I can just move it over just a tiny bit like that. And that's probably going to be a little bit more centered. And if that's the case, maybe I need to make adjustments to my guides. And then going forward, if I create an action to make those guides, they will always be in the right place at the same time. So let's just see if that's a little more centered, and we're going to paste it. And if you would like to get my designs, if you don't have it, just check down in my description. I do have a link for my designs in my description, and you can give it a try. You can sign up for free, and you can purchase just a couple of credits. I think it's 125 credits for $5, and just see if it's something that you're interested in. But it does make creating the glitter paper and the tearaway a lot easier. I find that when I try to create glitter paper in Midjourney, as much as I use Midjourney, because I've created over 20,000 images just since April, that it just struggles with glitter paper, and My Designs does such a good job with the glitter paper. So now you can see I do have this centered, so I'll probably want to adjust my guides a little bit, but doesn't that look fantastic? And now you'll be able to use this on any image if you save it. You can even just drag it directly from, in Mac, it's called a Finder. I think in a PC, it's called Windows Explorer. You'll be able to just drag it. It'll size and place automatically, and it will be super fast to use. And if you're interested in learning how to create an action that will do all of that work for you so that you're just ready to adjust the colors and flatten and save, subscribe to my email, and I will get a link over to a video especially for you. This is Dana with Dana Digital Tutorials. Have a great day.